podcast back with old Silverfox. We have client Diablo, El Diablo.
Hola.
And we've just come to the end of, you did about 8 days in Bogota with us.
Yep.
But yeah, it'd be interesting today to just maybe talk about a little bit about your experience. Can you say where you're from originally?
Well, I'm in United States, Boston area.
Yeah.
Yeah, lived there most of my life.
So why did you come? Actually, yeah, why did you come? Why did you come and spend the time with us?
Because her pussy was so nice. Sorry. There's people walking by.
Of course, it's a completely deserted patio, and you make that one comment, and that's right when two people walk out of the patio.
Okay.
That's like a me thing. You've learned that from me, saying the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Yeah, why did I come here?
Why did you decide to come and spend time with myself and Clint?
Because it's just one thing I knew that I needed to improve in my life is I got to the point where financially I had the opportunity and the opportunity to travel, and I've wanted to come to Colombia for a long time. And
is this your first time to South America?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd been following James on YouTube for a while, and I saw he was going to be in Bogota, and I thought it was a cool opportunity. And yeah, I mean, I've just never been very forward and outgoing in terms of talking to women, and I thought it was a good opportunity to improve that part of my life.
Had you tried any day game or kind of stuff back home before?
No, nothing.
So you're a complete virgin, that's all.
Tinder,
At date.
any social media, nightclub stuff?
No, I mean, obviously I was on Tinder, but I wasn't having much success there. I'd had a couple of girlfriends lately and some girlfriends when I was younger, but yeah, no, I was pretty slow going in terms of women.
Okay.
Up until the last couple of weeks.
And what were your kind of main objectives when you were coming here in terms of the day game stuff?
So in my head, I was thinking about it as not missing an opportunity. So if I'm at a bar or at a club and I see a beautiful girl, I don't want to exit that place thinking, fuck, why didn't I talk to
That
that
fear
girl?
of kind of, what the fuck was I thinking? Because it's always, rejection's better than regret, right? If you approach a load of women, but they blow you out, you're still like, well, at least I gave it a fucking shot.
Yeah, I'm a stallion and just going home alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like I knew there was the potential to learn how to kind of pick up girls every night and that kind of thing, and I hadn't really thought too much about whether that's a part of whether that's something I want to make a part of my life, but I knew whether or not I wanted to do that, the skills I would learn from the process would benefit me in terms of not missing those opportunities.
Okay. And what were you kind of expecting from it? Was it kind of, you didn't have any expectations of Bogota as a place, or you kind of had an idea in your head, and was it actually the reality of what manifested?
No, I definitely had a bunch of ideas just from videos I had been watching. Before when I was thinking about coming here, I started watching videos about or reading about Colombia and how the women are here, and there was definitely this like stereotype of the girls are so receptive and it's going to be so easy, and I assumed going into it that it can't be like that. That's got to be a stereotype. It's probably more realistic. But yeah, it absolutely is like the stereotype.
So very open women.
The
very
women
receptive.
are very open, very receptive, very non-standoffish. Like they'll chat with you, even if ultimately they're going to say no. They're still going to be super like smiley and like appreciative.
It's a much warmer culture.
It's a good place for beginners, really, isn't it? Because
absolutely.
And you had quite a cool trick to get over the approach anxiety, which is
I remember the first approach I did here. I kept thinking about the line I was going to say because I'm not that good at Spanish, so I kind of pre-learned a line, and I kept repeating it in my head and thinking I'm going to approach this girl and say it to her, and I remember like feeling butterflies in my stomach as I'm saying it in my head, and I'm like, I don't want to be doing that as I'm approaching the girl, right? I don't want to be thinking about what I'm going to say because it's like your brain's trying to do two things at once. It's trying to it's like giving a speech, right? That's hard. You're thinking about not messing up and that kind of thing. So I knew I wanted to clear my mind, and it suddenly occurred to me that the first thing I need to say is always going to be, do you speak English in Spanish? Hables inglés. And so I remember as I was approaching the girl, I'm like, just don't think about what you're going to say. You've memorized the other line well enough, you can work your way through it. And if you make clear that you're, like if you say, do you speak English? They know you don't speak Spanish, so you can kind of fumble your way through the next part, and they'll be okay with it. because they'll be like, haha, that's cute, he's trying to pick me up in Spanish.
But it's also a good way of just focusing yourself on that present moment.
Right.
A lot of the stress and fear comes from either thinking too far into the future or thinking about the past.
Right.
When we're really present,
Right.
then there's not really much to worry about. So it's a good
Yeah.
way just to reset that thing of that's just the first brick
Yeah.
in the wall.
And it's really masculine too, to be able to be that guy that doesn't need to have everything planned out.
Yep.
You're adaptive. So you're in the moment. It might go to the left, it might go to the right. You don't really need to know
Yep.
because you know you have confidence in yourself that if it goes to the left, we'll go to the left. If she says something I didn't expect, we'll go to the right. Like
Right.
it's no brainer.
Yeah, it's spontaneity as opposed to
Totally.
reciting
Much
a
more
speech.
romantic.
Yeah. Yeah, you still obviously need to practice that line beforehand, not like up to a person, but like say it to yourself 100 times so that you know you can recall it when you need to, even if it takes you a second to remember them. But that's what I found as I was talking to the girls, as I'm standing there like, what was that thing that I'm supposed to say? It's like duve que. That's natural. Like they see that that's you spontaneously coming up with something to say in the moment, and you don't look like an idiot because it's your second language.
And did
whatever
it
third
surprise you that they're allowing you to kind of, if you, they didn't speak English, allow you just to work your way through and translate? Did that surprise you that you have kind of enough time to do that?
I hadn't thought about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that all goes to the women being more receptive and warmer to you and giving
I think
you a chance.
that's also part of the femininity thing
Grab-
because
grab
that's also part of the femininity thing because since she's really feminine, she's enjoying interacting with you, and the words that you're saying are very secondary. She's drinking in the moment and the experience of it, and you're focusing on, okay, as a Westerner, how do I translate data from my brain into her brain, which is really secondary when you're talking to women anyway. Really, you're creating a moment of connection with her, and sometimes words are they're always secondary to that, right? But so that's why sometimes you'll be standing there and she's interacting with you, even though you're standing there going, what was I going to say? I don't know how to say it in Spanish. She'll just stand there and be like, oh, that's really interesting. I'm waiting for you to tell me what it is.
And
She's
they
actually
want you to take
interested.
that leadership role as well, so they don't mind just hanging around.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge came in afterwards. In the beginning, I remember struggling with having to pull out my phone and being like, okay, Google Translate. Once the conversation went into that portion after the initial thing I said, but yeah, you get over that too. Eventually, you get comfortable with it, and it becomes natural. And then, again, it's all. For me, it was about feeling like I'm doing something spontaneous and speaking off the cuff, as opposed to trying to remember and hold something in your head and recite it as you're interacting with that person.
Yeah, I think one of the big things for you, definitely on the day game side, was being able to now approach groups as well. You're able to go in there and quite confidently kind of handle yourself, which is something at the beginning I don't think you'd ever tried.
Yeah.
But yeah, you picked it up pretty quickly. How did you find the dating aspects, the physical escalation, the verbal escalation of going on dates with these women?
So with dating, I found to be the probably so my sticking point was actually getting them home. That last moment where you're saying like you're trying to come up with an excuse to get them home, and they give you this eye like I know what you're trying to do.
What was you used to talk about salsa, didn't you? You were talking a lot
Yeah,
about,
I would say like
come and watch the salsa. Come
Yeah,
watch
no.
me
Well,
salsa.
throughout the date, I would always introduce like, do you like dancing to salsa? Obviously, they all say yes, and I tell them I'm interested in learning, and maybe you can show me, and they're like, yeah, I'd love to show you. And so by the end of the night, I'm like, I want you to come show me some moves, so come over to my house, or something like, you know, I used to be a DJ, so I would say, come, let me show you some of the DJ sets that I did or whatever. But they would still always, they knew, I mean, they're not idiots. They're like,
These are only like the most brilliant women on the planet when it comes to like knowing
Right.
what a guy's doing.
Yeah.
They know all that you don't know about yourself.
yeah, so there's an element, and Clint talked about this a lot, is there's an element of exuding sexuality sufficiently from the beginning of the interaction, even from the approach, so that they know exactly.
Congruency.
Yeah, congruency. They know exactly what you're interested in. So yeah, so that was my sticking point, is getting them home. But up until that point, even like making out with a lot of them at the on the date, I found that to be the easiest, just because of the question game.
Yeah, question game's
it's
brilliant.
it's so scripted, but not scripted, because the answer, like the questions you ask are pretty scripted, but the answers you get and the interactions that result as that come as a result of those questions are, you know, it's actually like a super useful tool for getting to know a person, because you get to see how they react in different emotional states. And
It's structured.
Yeah,
structured,
but it's
So it
individual
gives you
to the
like
girl.
a,
Right.
matrix within which you can
Yeah.
do whatever you want to do.
yeah.
What else have you picked up from the Fox about kind of learning? I remember you talking about you like the idea of kind of not just picking up women, but being charming to anyone.
Yeah. So Clint definitely has been drilling that into me, is that it doesn't matter who you approach, you should be able to find a way to see something in them positive that you can harp on as you're talking to them. Like, so for example, there was the question of girls that look a little underage. He said, don't worry, because you don't have to sexualize it, right? It's not about you're trying to sexualize it. If you have that approach of enjoying charming people, you can just come up to a girl and give her a compliment and say, you know, you have a great outfit and I think it's really cute, and then go on your way, and they'll still be
Kind of adding value, some would
yeah,
say, right?
you've added value to their day.
And it takes away some of the fear too, because I think when you're really on point, in my opinion, you can walk up to, you know, a girl with obviously her parents, and you think she might be, I don't really even think about age, you know, like I'll just go and approach someone that I think has something of value. Wow, you look stunning, your hair is stunning, your walk is stunning, whatever it is. And then I'll tell her that, and as I'm interacting with her, you know, I can kind of tell, oh, you know what? I think she might be a little underage, based on different things that are coming up. Or maybe I'll say like, oh, so you're studying? Yeah, I'm still in high school or something, right? At that point, I haven't sexualized anything. So if I can interact with her and her parents, especially her dad, well, both of her parents, and neither of them are triggered into protective, I'm going to fucking kill you mode, then you know that you're doing it well, because you're not triggering that in them. They know that you're not there to prey upon their daughter. And if she is like 22 or whatever, and you're having a great interaction, then of course, yes, you can focus more and more on her, and the parents will even be like, oh, well, we're going to go over there, you kids have fun, you know? And, but I think the good thing there is like you're approaching to add value, and you just delay the decision of whether or not you're going to sexualize it, depending on the age thing, right? So yeah, I think that's a great point. It's a good call.
And you know, I think a lot of the issues sometimes with guys is that you kind of have this boot camp effect where you're out with us and you're having an amazing time, but then you're going to be probably traveling relatively indefinitely. But how are you going to now apply this stuff and make sure it's congruent and you keep pushing it forward and it becomes part of who you are rather than just kind of a flash in the pan of a couple of weeks?
Well, kind of something I guess I'm proud of in my process throughout is. Sometimes you would see a girl, for example, and you'd think, well, she's kind of my type, and these guys would push you to, it doesn't matter, just go and do it. And there would be some reservations in my head, and I would get over them, and I would go and do it. But what I've found in myself is when I see a girl that I really like, oh man, she's fucking gorgeous, that's when it's easiest for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's kind of that DNA tug, they call it, where
right,
you just know you've got to take that chance.
Yeah,
right?
It's exactly like what I was interested in doing, right? Don't miss those opportunities.
Yeah.
So when you see that girl, it's like, oh man, I have to. I don't even, like, they don't want to say a word. I'm like, bye guys, I'm off. So that ability makes me comfortable that, like, you know, if somebody walks in right now that is beautiful, I'll drop the mic and I'll just go and talk to her, right? And
we'll just wax eloquently while you're going.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I feel confident that I can continue applying that. Whether or not I want to pursue the like hardcore, everyday, high volume, like get a lot of numbers, that's a question I have to ask myself, because I've actually been a little bit stressed out. In Colombia, you have to get like a lot of numbers because so many girls flake.
Yes.
So it's the guys recommend high volume, set up 4 dates a night, and it's kind of emotionally draining. You're talking to 4 girls at once, and you're trying to communicate with them. And I remember, like, yesterday, I took a day with just one girl. I just had her for the whole day. It was like the boyfriend experience, the girlfriend experience, right? And it was super relaxing. You just have a girl that's all over you. She's kissing you. She's you know, super into you. And that's like, you're getting the femininity. You're getting the thing that I was missing before without all the stress. So I have to decide for myself, like,
where you take it.
Right, I'm probably going to slow down a little bit.
That's good. Okay.
But do maybe set up maybe go out and try to get a number to try to set up a couple of numbers to try to set up some dates, maybe 1 or 2 a day, not 3 or 4.
Okay.
And I
that
think
kind of crazy
too
shit.
that, you know, partly that becomes just you discovering what you want out of it, right? And so some guys do want the experience of dating a lot of different women, and some guys just want to meet one Mrs. Right girl that they're going to date for the next year. Some guys want to meet their wife,
Yep.
right? There's no right or wrong answer to that, right? But I think the learning process and the approach should be the same regardless. And then that way you are in a place where you've got abundance. And it takes a weird period of time too. Like I'd say, date 50 different women and find out. It doesn't mean you need to sleep with them all, but I mean find out what do you actually not like in a woman? Because right now you think you know, but you don't have a clue because you haven't had enough opportunities to date women. But as you start dating them, you'll pick up the tiniest little things. You're like, I don't like being around a woman if she's not very positive. I don't like being around, like the woman I was with last night, she actually would be like constantly thinking of things for me. Like she was very focused on my well-being. So like when we left the hotel room, she's like, oh, you need a jacket. You should grab your jacket. And I was like, oh yeah, thank you, And then we sat down and we were eating pizza and we both had a mouthful of pizza. And then she like opened the drink or whatever and then put it right in front of me without saying anything, like in case I wanted the drink. And so it's just like
Too much.
yeah, but it's adorable. But that was the first time I've noticed something quite like that, and I was just like,
so
wow,
you
what a
like
great
that?
quality. Yeah, because it wasn't controlling me; it was just being very thoughtful.
Thoughtful, sure.
And then I've got a girl that I know in Cartagena. She's just fucking an incredible human being, and one of the things I love about her is that if I do anything to bless her, she totally feels shy and embarrassed by it, even if it only costs like $10 or $20 or something, right? So we were going to this private island for the day. And so the day before, we were just walking through the street, and I just took her into a store and bought her a bikini. And she was like blown away. My thing was to set up things well for tomorrow. She's a girl that I care a lot about. But just seeing the opportunity to bless somebody when they're not using you for money is a beautiful thing. But it enables you to zero in on these tiny, tiny little traits that you go, I really like when a woman has that. And I really don't like it when a woman has this, right? And most guys only date one girl every 2 months or less maybe, and so they never really get to zero in on those things. So it's not about having to get a high notch count. It's just discover what you want.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That I'm absolutely happy that I was pushed to go for the high volume because it's the two extremes. Now I know I'm equipped for both, right? And then I decide which I want. If I know that I want to become like these guys and have like a high percentage with any girl I talk to and meet, then I know I'm going to need to practice high volume and it's just a matter of practice and time, and so I know I have that ability. Even though it's stressful, if I decide that's important to me, I'll do that, right? Or I'll slow it down and kind of go with having a couple of girlfriends that I meet.
It's having the option to decide.
Yeah.
That's the key.
So,
and then what you decide, who cares? It's your
Yeah,
choice.
so learning it the kind of high volume bootcamp way is definitely worth it.
What have you learned as far as because we went over a lot of stuff about masculinity mindset, let's say, and how it translates into small things, like for example, when you're texting and being like, would it be okay to pick you up at 6 o'clock or whatever? And I'd be like, no, dude, delete that. You have to reword it and say, come here at 6 o'clock, I'll meet you there. Or like the last time, the girl that you met with at Hard Rock Cafe, and the first thing you said was, hey,
Is my place okay?
let's go to this bar, is that okay with you? Or something like that. And then you sent me the screenshot after, because then she replied and said, no, I'd prefer to go to this bar. And it was bad logistics and loud, and you didn't like it. And then you were in a pissing contest with her. And so we went over a lot more about, I don't know what you want to call that, like assertive language? Assertive mindset.
Kind of,
like it's
being
okay. It
the
doesn't
lead.
mean it doesn't mean that you're an asshole or a control freak. In the West, that's what we say. In the West, women say like, or if you said something like, "Come meet me at 6 o'clock at Starbucks," oh my God, that's like a microaggression, and you should be thrown in jail for being a toxically masculine man. But that's actually just being masculine. You're just taking the tone and the leadership. Come meet me at 6 o'clock. She can say no.
Yep.
It's okay. You're not forcing anybody. You're just not being a pathetic little beta male that says like, oh, if it's okay with you, I don't want to offend you, but is it all right if you come back to my place? I'd like to like, you want to be bold, right? But talk a little bit about how, because that was probably hard for you, because it's so contrary to the message in the West.
Yeah.
Like you're literally burning all these synapses in your brain to try and transition your behavior.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Did you expect that, or was that a surprise, or did you?
Well, no. So it was a surprise a little bit.
How detailed, like how the thing comes down to these little detailed things.
That and just I kind of didn't expect going into the experience. I expected a lot of what I got from Tusk just because I saw all the videos. I know that seeing your videos, that you were going to push people into, like, weird situations and really challenge them. But I didn't expect so much about how taking that frame of being the lead and just the way you talk and the way you're exuding masculinity and for example the way you give compliments, like it's not just like, oh, I thought you were cute, it's, oh my god, you look gorgeous, and just the commitment to that. I think that's part of it as well. So
and that is something that works a lot more with really feminine, say for example,
Right.
Latina women. You'd want to tone that down a little bit.
yes.
with
Yeah,
women.
guys that are maybe trying to apply the stuff in the US don't go overly mozzarella.
And
cheesy.
I'm also really fucking cheesy just by nature.
Oh, you are
so when I'm
literally. We should call you
congruent-
the human cheese, the human block of
That's
cheese.
what you were calling me, like pink rainbow. What was Sam calling
Pink
me?
rainbow and
Pink
sparkly
bunnies and
stardust
rainbows or
and,
something,
yeah, it's all
like-
very emotional. But no,
Come on.
it works for you. It's
Well,
congruent for
I
you.
think for me too, I told you after a couple of times with Clint that I think that's actually more congruent to my style as
Sure.
well. I like being a little more forward and a little more cheesy and a little more goofy, but super intentful.
Yeah,
Right?
you've got to back it up.
Right. And that I found, once I started applying that in approaches, I definitely felt like it definitely affects the women, but it also affects you. Like it puts you in a frame. So you go in there and you're like, oh man, you look amazing, and then all of a sudden you feel like you say a lot, a cup overflowing. Right? You're just giving them something because you feel it and it's genuine and just, I don't know.
And then when that pivots into sex,
Right.
like when you've started off on that footing, as opposed to say Tinder, or in a club when you're both half drunk, when you've started on that super bold, forward, masculine footing, and then it just goes up from there and leads into the bedroom, sex is going to be 1,000 times better because you're so masculine for her, and you enable her to experience her femininity on like a completely different level. So I think it's a really cool thing. Talk a little bit, unless you want to talk about something else, but talk a little bit about remember we went on a double date, you had a couple other double dates, but I know there were a number of times where you were just shocked at how far you can push something and get a really positive response back. Basically, it's like the West programmed your mind to say, oh my God, if you said that, you'd get a slap. But then you'd see it happen and you'd be like, she's actually, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to describe it is actually something you said, which is if you look at a soap opera here, everything is like 10 times more exaggerated. If you look at a soap opera in America, everything's obviously exaggerated. That's the whole point of a soap opera. But then you look at a soap opera here and it's like times 10. Everything is even more exaggerated. And what you start to realize is that the women here, maybe not all, but a lot of them, based on our interactions, they're actually, in their head, they're looking for a little bit of that, right? They're looking for that exaggerated masculine-feminine interaction. And so it is surprising once you see somebody being like, sorry, Glenn.
Yep.
Oh, your hair is just so beautiful. And you're just watching it.
Theoretically, hypothetically, he's not really saying that I do that, even though I do that with every interaction.
No, but like I'm on the double date and he's like super like that, and the girl's like like giggling, and it's just like
Isn't
like
it
this
shocking,
is so
though, like-
lame, but whatever. It's
Isn't it shocking
cool.
though, like in the first 5 minutes, like you can be immediately touching her. Like it blows my mind. You can be like, literally, I just met you, I'm a stranger. All I've said to you is, excuse me, do you speak English? Your hair is amazing. And I'm touching her hair and like rubbing her face, and like she's just like, oh really? Oh, you like that? And I'm holding her hand. Oh, I like your nails. And I'm just holding her hand for 10 minutes. And it's just like, it still blows my mind that it's like you can be so physically communicative.
It's like you're channeling
2 to 3 minutes.
it's like you're channeling the stereotype of like the Don Juan super seductive, aggressive guy, right?
But it's so natural. It's congruent for me, and it's so natural to like a Latin American mindset and environment. It's just like it's fucking romance here.
But
The
again, you
woman's, like,
learned
getting
that, right?
swamped
You
in.
weren't like that originally, is the key point.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah,
learned,
it's
you
something-
almost faked it.
I think I
Fake
was
it before
always
you
like
make
that
it, kind of.
as of my personality, but I just didn't know how to authentically communicate it.
Sure.
And then over time, it's almost like I don't know. There's a saying that I can't think of, but you got to work really, 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 really hard to learn how to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so you can't just walk out and be like, okay, be yourself, like your mom told you. That doesn't work. We know that. You guys all know that. But really getting good at this is not about you becoming Tusk. It's about you doing a lot of training with somebody, whoever you want, that can unstrip the layers of fakeness around you and enable you to actually be authentic. So when I'm with a woman now, what she loves is that I just actually have the ability to open the door and let her taste who I am and connect with me. And I have the ability to enable her to do that in a safe place. And you can do that in 2 minutes. You can do that in a club, and you can do that here on the street, in a Starbucks, wherever. Once you know how to connect, you literally just, it's like plugging a cable into your iPhone. You know what I mean? Like now you're charging, right? But for me, it's super authentic, but it took a long time to learn how to be like that.
Yeah, it's definitely about peeling back your own kind of self-conscious layers of prejudice for yourself about like
fear.
How this is, and fear, and a lot of it is like a mix. It's like you think it's, oh, this is just stupid and weird, but really it's you making excuses not to do that because it feels uncomfortable, and you're afraid of the consequences, and you're afraid of like exposing that vulnerable aspect of yourself. So there's definitely a lot of stripping back, and that's, I think, Clint's approach is very positive for that. But Tusk's approach is great too. No, for real, because you
the
still
most non-fragile ego guy over here. It's like, it's okay.
Please compliment me.
No, it's true because, and Tusk and I talked about this, it's a synthesis. You have to take a little bit of both because you're still, no matter what, going to be talking to somebody, and the dynamics of understanding a conversation and how to provide value other than just touching them and like being super sexual and forward, it's still there. So you have to understand like what a conversation, what a good conversation is, and what the dynamics of where a conversation goes and how that makes her feel. That's what Tusk's method is so helpful for, and then text game, and then obviously during the date, and the pattern of dating with the question game is super. Quick question: do you use the question game?
Are you question gaming me right now?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a question back after.
Game with the double date. Which was actually super awesome because he knew that I was still kind of like, especially because of the language barrier, he knew that I was going to struggle. So he did a question game for the four of us. And like he threw that in there, and that probably saved me. Like by the end of the night, that girl was like, they had to leave. We let them go, but she was like, write me. She was like super into me, and that would have never happened because I was floundering, and you were just like, all right, question game with all four, and then that kind of worked out. But do you play question game individually with girls usually, or do you have your own method?
I think it's just an option for how to connect. I look at it like there's lots of different languages that we have. I mean, you have languages like English and Spanish that we use to connect, but you also have like eye contact, touching, dancing. I don't know. There's like tons of different ways of connecting, and I think it's not about only using one way. It's about learning how to be open and able to connect with somebody, and recognizing that I don't even want to call it a tool, but the medium that you're using to connect is irrelevant. I think really the question game is like, it's a great way to get to know somebody. You can use it in not just to sexualize things, but I use it maybe half of the time. A lot of the times I just use my eyes. It's just another way of communicating with a girl.
Hey, have my eyes.
But it's a really, when you can connect that way, it's a really intense connection that you can create.
Subcommunication.
Yeah. I prefer that because it's just a little bit more natural for me, I guess.
Question games are great
question game's
scaffold
a
for
great
beginners, and it's something I always play.
I do
just
it
find
lots
easy.
too. Like it's fun, and it's always good to have a fallback and be like, hey, you know what? Today I'm a bit lower energy. I don't know what to say. Whatever. Oh, it's like that's your go-to. Yep.
But good to mix it up, and don't always, in a couple of months, don't always think I have to be using the question game. It's good to kind of break free of that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And one thing I was going to say about that date, which was a lot of fun, that double date actually, even though mine was the one that you brought for me to date was not my type, we were going to say. But it was funny. Did you notice how your questions were super safe, and it didn't charge anything? And then I don't know if you were there or you went to the bathroom at one point, and I was just like, okay, fuck it, let's turn up the heat. And so I just like, I really took some questions out of the box. And I was like, because I could tell they were super close. And I said to them, so have you guys ever had a threesome together?
Cut. 1 sec. Okay.
So at that double date, I thought it was really fun, but the one that you brought me was a little bit not my style of girly. But we were playing the question game, and then I think you were playing it quite safe.
Yeah, I start like the early questions where it's like, if I give
Well,
you
and you were just-
what do you do?
Yeah, like non-sexualizing it. And then I was escalating things like right up, and you could see that you'd ask one and the girls would answer, but it would just like low energy. And then you could see I'd ask something and the girls would just light up, feeling giggly and everything. And I started asking like really, really fast, really pointed sexual questions, to the point that I asked them, because they were holding hands or something, and I said, have you guys ever been together with a guy? And they were like, well, actually, yeah, we have one time. And it was, well, what was that like? And so we're sitting there like, I don't know, 10 minutes in, talking about what it was like the first time that they had a threesome together and what they like to do with a guy in bed. And like that obviously is going to create a very sexually charged fire atmosphere, whereas asking a lot of things like safe, super non-sexual questions.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the adjustments I had to make to get over that sticking point of not being able to get them home, is not to stick too long on the low energy questions and jump right into the sexual, like as early as you can. Like you can pretty much do it right away. Like, you don't have to. If you got to calibrate a little bit, but yeah, I mean, in my experience with these girls, I could start asking sexual questions too pretty early.
It does have to be, the connection has to, the point is, to me, the question game is a way of connecting to somebody. And the weight of each one of the questions, how heavy it is emotionally, depends on the level of connection that you've established. So if you've really connected well right away, like that really feminine woman, the one that you saw me with in the red or something, we connected really deeply immediately. So when I went to Starbucks, I just walked in, I saw her, I just grabbed her, we just started kissing. It was like, I don't even know if it was in 2 minutes in. And everything was like on. But I couldn't do that with someone else. So I think as you become more aware, you can determine how connected you are to that person, and then the level of intimacy of your questions should reflect that. If you start asking her about, does she masturbate, and you've got a very low connection level to her, it's going to be extremely creepy, and she's going to give you the look of like, ah, and then you're going to...
With that sound.
Exactly. She may make that sound. And then that's a difficult sound to overcome.
Yeah, and it's body language is a big part of it, obviously. So like something I started paying attention to more, what I was missing early on in my dates is I would often look at a girl and we'd have like good eye contact, and there would be this like tension there where she's kind of like almost wants to look away a little bit, like you're making me a little bit uncomfortable in a good way, right? And I wouldn't jump on that. I would sense that, and I'm like, oh, that's a good sign, and then I would continue with my stupid questions, with my like regular, like, if I gave you $1 million, where would you end up, or something like that. But then as I got more experience on the dates, the moment I saw that, that would be kind of my cue. Hey, there's like a little bit of sexual tension here. I'm going to start pushing the questions. When's the last time you kissed a boy? When's the something
boy.
like that. Man, whatever.
When's the last
The old
time?
Mrs. Robinson, Columbia Mrs. Robinson.
When's the last time you kissed a prepubescent boy?
Chico, you can say Chico, right?
A chiquito.
Yeah, you can say, I say
In
boy,
Spanish,
to be
chicos,
fair,
yeah.
yeah.
When's the last time you kissed a boy under 15?
And that was actually one of the last guys.
She didn't ask you that question, did she?
One of the
I
last
have been asked some
one of the
interesting
last
questions.
guy's lines that was actually really good was she was saying, if she says, I have a boyfriend, you say, yeah, but when was the last time you've been with a man? Da-ding. And like, just carry on, but it worked really well.
Nice.
And it's saying it in Spanish, and she's like, ah. It's quite a good one.
I usually just say I've never had a boyfriend myself.
That's
but
a good
I've
one.
heard they can be good, they can be bad. But anyway, I'm taking you for
Any
that's
advice for guys thinking about maybe coming and doing some training? Now you've done the training, would you recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely worth the money. I mean, it's an experience for a week or however long you do it, and then you're armed with the skills to basically do the thing that probably for 99% of men in the world is the most important thing that
And the most difficult.
And the most difficult, yeah, that they're gonna want to do, right? That's everybody's fantasy, everybody's dream, to be that guy that can just go talk to a girl and pick her up. And obviously everybody's results are going to differ, but this is one of the most cost-efficient and time-efficient ways of doing it. I mean, you could also, invest in getting jacked and going to the gym every day and getting an amazing, become a CEO of a company, and that'll probably help you. And there's all these things, obviously, self-improvement-wise, that are going to help you. But this is like 1 week, not that much money comparatively, and you're now armed with probably the best skills that you can get, as opposed to all the other things you can learn and do for yourself.
And to a lot of the guys that are looking at it, if you want to just look at it in monetary value, I usually look at it in two different ways. One, right now, a lot of the guys that are on this channel are seeing prostitutes. So you go like, if you see, I don't know what prostitutes charge, but it's going to be a few $100 anyway, I imagine.
Yeah,
so then you go, you see 10, that's covered your boot camp, right? And then you go like, a lot of the guys that don't do that are like, they try and buy women's affections. So they go on the first date and drop $150 on some romantic dinner, and they go on the second date and take her to some whatever, and that's like another $300, and then a romantic evening, and that's $500. And they're just blowing their money across the table. They don't understand how to do it properly. It's like myself, I'll go on a date with a girl that's coffee for $10, and we walk. And then we walk back to the hotel. So it's like, cost me coffee and a condom. So it's not about, so even if you look at it from that point of view, you go, this guy over the period of a month, whether he's seeing pros or whether he's just dating incorrectly, right there you're probably going to be saving like $1,000, $2,000 in that month. Not to mention all the gains of what you're saying you get, the benefits, right? And then the other thing is your time. You can get good at this without a coach, and you can invest, like I invested, I don't know, I've probably been doing this, I don't even have a clue. How long do you think you've been doing this, hours-wise? I think I'm probably at like 6,000 hours, 8,000 hours. I don't even have a clue.
Many hours.
Yeah. And you go, if you were to go, hey, you know what, I'm not going to pay this coach. Instead, I'm going to invest 10 times as much time. And let's just say that takes you 2,000 hours to start getting good at it, which is probably realistic. Then you go, okay, that 2,000 hours, let's say your time is worth $50 an hour. I mean, right there, my brain, I haven't really eaten.
100,000, is it?
My brain's slow.
100 grand?
It's something like 100 grand. It's not very difficult math. I should have asked you this question. 100 grand, right?
What was it? $50 an hour for 2,000?
Yeah, 2,000 hours.
So
Yeah, 100 grand. So even if you go, well, that's a little bit inflated. You only make $25 an hour, whatever. The point is, you're going to save, I'm guessing 1 week on a boot camp is 1,000 hours of training.
But time is your most valuable commodity. You never get it back. You can always make more money.
Huge.
It's about saving time.
And the earlier that you get this integrated into your life properly, the more time you have to experience the gains of it. So like I got into it, I was 40-ish.
Really?
Yeah, but how about Huevo? You go like, he's getting
20.
into this at like 20,
Jesus,
21 or
lucky
something. He just turned 21. And I'm like, that little prick, he's so lucky. He's like learning this shit that I had to spend like years of slaving away at. And he's just like skipping all the slavery and just walking into the promised land, right? Brilliance.
Insane.
Yeah, it's absolutely, the results are almost instantaneous. I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but here
You've been on a few dates now as well. You've taken a few girls home, so you've actually kind of gone through that whole process within 7 days. So yeah, it's great stuff.
Yep.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think.
No? Guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you to Mr. Diablo for being very honest and sharing his thoughts. And if you've got any questions about his experience, send me an email and we can always put you in touch with him and he can talk you through it. But otherwise, drop me or the Fox an email and come out and meet us in Latin America.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Leo. Very helpful of you.
Thanks, Leo, for your candidness.
What are your plans for the day today? No.
Getting 3 escorts.
He always does this at the end. He just keeps filming.
2
I know.
Until you start getting uncomfortable, you're like, wriggling away.
2 burritos.
3 escorts, 2 burritos.
Why am I leaning into your lap on film?
Brilliant.
He did say he's looking for an escort.
I've
I need $100.
got my UV light to look in your room.
Totally. It could be a dangerous. It's like a painting pattern. Well, this isn't even my coffee. Look at that.
My day, I don't know. 2 dead, 1 injured shootings in America.